Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where Karen is demanding OP buy her a plane ticket. Am I the jerk for not buying my wife a plane ticket because she's horrible with money? My wife is horrible with money. At the beginning of our marriage, we pulled out money together and she would use all of it. Her job pays very little compared to mine, so when we combined the money, she went crazy. I had many conversations with her over it and even tried to get her to take a money management class. Over time, it got worse and worse. About a year ago, I learned that she was in bad credit card debt. I gave her the choice of divorce or we separate our money and she needs to fix her debt ASAP. To her credit, she took it seriously and she is fixing her credit card debt. We have separate money and I pay the bills while her only worry is to buy groceries. My family has a big vacation coming up and everyone is invited. The trip is to Europe and plane tickets are going to cost around $1,000. My parents are going to pay for the resort, so the only thing that needs to be paid is the plane tickets and the fund money for the trip. I plan on going. She informed me that she will not be able to afford a ticket. I point out the trip is in about 4 months, so she should be able to save up by then. She told me that she needs to use it for her credit card debt in order to get it paid off. I told her okay, and I'll inform the family that she can't make it. This started an argument about me not being willing to pay for her ticket and me going on vacation without her. I told her that this is her own fault, and if she were responsible with money, we wouldn't be here. So, am I the jerk? Everyone sucks here. She needs to be wiser about money, sure, I'll give you that, but she is trying. She's fixing her debt and getting her crap together. Of course, you don't have to pay for her. If this was a money issue, I would totally understand your point. But you're just punishing her. You're just being cruel. She already learned her lesson. Why do you keep putting her down? Yeah, I'll go as far as to say you're the jerk here. She was the jerk in the prior event. He's the jerk in this one. Why even stay together when it's clear you don't want her there? Exactly. She's trying to fix her mistake and he's not letting her live it down and is still actively punishing her and being a bad partner too. You're the jerk. You're the jerk. She's making an effort and you should have just divorced her if you planned on holding a grudge like this. Not the jerk. Clearly all the "you're the jerk" voters have never been in this position. Her years and years of overspending have severely damaged this marriage and family. That's soul-crushing. She could have changed and fixed it many times, but she didn't bother until he said it's fix it or divorce. Even now, he pays for everything except groceries so that she can apply almost all of her money to her huge debt. Those of you saying she should leave him clearly don't understand that she's staying because she can't afford to live alone, and that would require a level of financial acumen that she doesn't have now and may never achieve. She didn't just not help build this family's resources, she actually drained them and robbed from the family present and future. OP is perfectly justified and reasonable in expecting her to buy her own plane ticket with 4 months' notice. Missing one cool vacation won't hurt her, but it may help her appreciate the need to be responsible and to understand how she has hurt them. I'm with you. All these "you're the jerks" obviously stand by the wife's side and it's messed up. As a wife, she's allowed to do this huge recklessness and be forgiven. If the role was reversed, everyone would tell her to divorce him ASAP. You're the jerk. She's taking it seriously and she's trying. You're being mean. If I were her, I'd leave you. Money is one of the leading causes of divorce. If you have a great understanding of finances, you probably won't have a very happy marriage with someone who doesn't. Am I the jerk for telling my stepdaughter to stop cooking in the middle of the night? I, 34 male, and my wife, 40 female, live with her 2 kids, her son who's 13 and her daughter who's 18, and her daughter's boyfriend who's also 18. My wife and I work 9 to 5, and my stepson goes to school from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. He's on summer break now. I take turns cooking with my wife. One day I'll cook dinner and the next day she'll cook, just to keep it balanced for the both of us since we get pretty tired after work. We always make sure to have leftovers ready for lunch the next day so the kids can heat it up in the microwave and have something to eat when we're not home. On the weekends, I do yard work and I wash the vehicle. My wife cleans the house instead. This has been working fine for us so far. Last week, I approached my stepdaughter and asked her if she could go easy on the cooking in the middle of the night because we're trying to make the food last. She seemed to have understood what I told her, but I noticed things didn't change and she keeps cooking in the middle of the night and also during the day, even though we make sure to leave plenty of cooked food which everyone in the house eats. My wife agrees with me and told her if she gets hungry during the day or night, she can make herself a sandwich or have cereal or something. It doesn't help the fact that she doesn't wash any of the dishes after she cooks, so when we get home from work, we have to wash a bunch of plates, pots, and utensils on top of the ones used for the meals we already prepare for them. Today, my stepson got into an argument with his sister because he found her at 9 a.m. cooking the steaks for the family barbecue tomorrow. She was searing them on the stove, which caused a small grease fire on the burner. I don't know what the heck she did, which caused the smoke detector to go off. Apparently, her boyfriend was craving steaks, and they forgot they were supposed to be for the barbecue. Nobody believes them since we've been planning this for the past 3 days. I'm pretty upset that she cooks all this food at night and during the day, but at the same time, I don't like having to tell people they shouldn't eat when they're hungry. It doesn't feel morally right to say that. My wife said I wasn't being unreasonable, and she agrees that there should be rules when it comes to cooking and making the food last. She brought up a valid point when she mentioned that me and her are the only ones paying for all of the house expenses and we're the only people working. I grew up borderline starving, and I always told myself I was never going to allow my family to go hungry. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. I'm not sure about your financial situation or if they contribute to the house in any way, so it's harder to judge. But cooking steaks at 9 a.m., you also say that there's always food in the fridge and that they insist on cooking anyway. To me, this doesn't seem to be a situation where they're going hungry and you're refusing to give them food. This is lack of consideration for the rest of the family. Now, clearly talking isn't working. If they refuse to listen to you, then they should start paying for groceries themselves. If they have to pay for the groceries for the whole family for a few months, I'm sure they will learn to be more mindful pretty fast. Not the jerk. Your stepdaughter and her boyfriend should have to start buying their own food or start contributing to the grocery money. They didn't forget what the steaks were for. They wanted them, so they ate them. Why not? No consequences. They don't have to pay for them. My sister is upset that I babysat my friend's baby instead of her nightmare kid. I'm a 23-year-old child-free woman, and my sister, who's 30, has a 4-year-old son. She's a single mom, ex-husband is not in the picture, and has no contact with her or their kid. I'm gonna get straight to the point. The kid is a nightmare to be around. It's not his fault, it's my sister's fault. However, my sister refuses to accept that her son has problems. He screams all the time whenever something doesn't go his way. He screams and cries when he's overwhelmed. He has meltdowns to certain sounds and textures. Like I said, I don't blame him for these issues, but my sister refusing to get him help is what makes him a nightmare to be around. So as a result, I don't babysit the kid when my sister asks, more like demands that I do so. This causes a lot of fights between us and our family. I have a friend, 23 male, who's married to a wonderful lady who's 22, and they have a baby boy together who just turned 1. Yes, they got married and had him while they were young, but it's not my place to judge them. This past weekend, they asked me to babysit for them, and I agreed for a few reasons. Their kid is calm, well-behaved, and is generally a good baby to be around. I love babysitting him. Also, they asked me nicely and understood that I might say no because I'm child-free. They were polite about their request. A thing about me is that if you ask me to do something politely, even if it's something I wouldn't usually agree to, I'd probably do it because you were nice and polite. So for these reasons, I happily agreed to babysit their son. My sister also asked me to babysit her son that day so she could have a day to herself, and I refused and told her that I was already babysitting for my friends. She was upset to say the least. She said a few comments about how I was a jerk and not a good sister, but I thought she dropped it after that. This past weekend, while I was watching the baby, my sister started banging on my door. I looked through the window and I saw that she had her kid in a care bag with her, and I knew she was trying to drop him off and make me babysit. She was banging on my door, yelling at me, and calling me heartless, and saying that I better open up and do my sisterly duties. I put the baby in a different room to keep him from getting scared by the noise and told my sister through the window to leave or I would call the cops. She started going off on me for 5 minutes straight before she finally left. I had this whole thing on my doorbell camera and I sent it to the family group chat. Surprisingly, my whole family is on her side. She keeps arguing with me about how I'd rather babysit a kid who's not even related to me over my nephew. I reminded her that her kid is a nightmare to be around, but she keeps saying that for family, you help out. My sister has been cold since and keeps sending me text messages to provoke me into arguing with her more. I will admit that I do feel a bit guilty because I never consider babysitting my nephew, but I jumped at the opportunity to babysit my friend's kid. My family are calling me a jerk and saying that I'm just using the child-free label to avoid family responsibility. I need advice on how to get my family to see my perspective on this. How can I explain to them that the issue isn't the idea of babysitting, but it's the behavior of my nephew? Just ignore your sister, maybe even block her. She isn't entitled to use you as a babysitter. As for your family, Black kettle them. So, when are you babysitting sister's kiddo, since family should care for family? Stop justifying, arguing, defending, and explaining your no. Do not give excuses like, I'm already babysitting another kid. Nobody is owed your time or labor. Simply say, no, I can't do that, and if they won't accept it, hang up on them. One day, your sister will have much bigger problems than not being able to find a babysitter for him. If she plans to send her kid to public school, it will become extremely obvious when he's unable to manage himself and she tells mandated reporters that she refuses to get him the help that he needs. Lady wants my rollator. For those who don't know, a rollator is basically a walker on wheels. I had a stroke 6 years ago and my balance and vision got messed up. I can walk maybe 20 to 25 feet on a flat surface without help, but I need my rollator to take long walks and take it with me wherever I go somewhere. I normally have weekly groceries delivered to me at my apartment, but every month or 6 weeks, depending on my schedule, my mom will take me to a specialty grocery store where I can get a lot of prepackaged meals that I just have to put in the microwave. We were on one of these trips and were waiting in line to check out. The rollator that insurance covers was a piece of cheap white plastic, so last Christmas, my mom bought me one that's black steel and titanium. It also has a pouch on the back for storing things, and when I need a break, I can lock the wheels, and it has a fold-out bench I can sit on. So while my groceries were being checked out, I folded out the bench and sat down waiting. When we were done, I got up and unlocked the wheels while my mom rolled out my cart of groceries. I had barely got 5 feet when a lady walked up and grabbed my rollator saying, "I'll take this." I said no and jerked it away from her and proceeded to follow my mom out to the parking lot. Usually my mom will load the groceries in the car while I leave the rollator on the side and walk my way to the passenger seat. After loading the groceries, my mom collapses the rollator and puts it on top of the groceries. This lady followed us out to the car and was waiting there, tapping her foot while we loaded the groceries. I didn't trust her, so I just stood holding my rollator. My mom said, "Go ahead, get in, it's unlocked." And I just shook my head no and tried to subtly point at the lady as to why I wasn't getting in. Mom understood and finished loading the groceries. When she was done, she came up to me, folded down the rollator while I walked to the passenger side door. Mom folded down the rollator, put it on top of the bags in the car, and was closing the door when this lady started shrieking about how we were stealing store property. I don't know if someone went and got him or what, but a manager type came out and asked what was going on. The lady screamed about how we were stealing the rollator and she needed to use it. The manager asked my mom about it and she said it was mine and even showed him the plaque bolted on it that had my name, emergency contacts, and medications, and the schedule I was on in case I needed them. The lady kept screaming that she needed it now that we were done. The manager told her that it was mine, it had information on it that pertained only to me, and that if she needed help, they could find her a mobility scooter or something. She didn't like this and suddenly went from shrieking harpy to sweet old lady saying, "Well, maybe she could leave it here and I could use it. Then I could leave it here when I'm done and they can come get it back." The manager then asked, "Would that be okay with you?" And my mom, knowing we would never see it again, said that we couldn't. We had other places to go where I would need it. The lady began screaming again while we just drove off. I don't know how it ended up for the manager, but I hope he survived it. Am I the jerk for calling my sister irresponsible and no longer letting her visit over a plant? I'm 26 female. My husband is 27 male. We have a daughter who's 6 and we've been trying to teach her more responsibility recently. We decided we didn't want to get her a pet, even a goldfish, because it was unfair if something happened to it. And after some thinking, we brought up the idea to my daughter of growing her own plant. She was thrilled with this idea, so the next day we took her to get some seeds. She chose sweet pea seeds and took to caring for her plant better than we expected. It grew really quickly and was thriving quite well considering the tools she had, and soon she was showing a strong interest in gardening. We started calling her Sweet Pea, important later, because of her project, and every day she'd tell us the news with her plant. Recently I got news that my grandmother had passed and we had to fly out to her funeral. My sister, who's 22, never talked to her and didn't want to attend, so I decided to ask her to look after my daughter's plant while we were out for the week. She agreed and we brought the plant over. My daughter kissed it goodbye and asked her to please take good care of it. My sister said she would, and I thought everything was fine until we got back. When I went to get the plant, my sister said, "Oh yeah, I completely forgot about that," and laughed. She brought the pot out and the stem was somehow snapped and it was wilted. My daughter ran crying to the car and I yelled at her for forgetting it and being irresponsible. She said I could just buy her another one, but I said that wasn't the point and I left. She hasn't apologized since. I've since been no contact with her and refused to let her visit. She's done other stuff like this in the past because she likes to act as if she's 18, and I've listened to my parents when they told me to let it go. But this time, she really hurt my daughter. My parents are now saying that it's just a plant and I'm being ridiculous for holding a grudge. My daughter has been extremely sad since this happened, and she's lost her interest in gardening. Even asked us to stop calling her Sweet Pea, which breaks my heart. So Reddit, am I the jerk? I hate to see my daughter like this, but I'm not sure if I'm overreacting. Info. Did your sister know the story of the plant and the name before taking the plant? OP. Yes, I told my daughter I'd be there in a minute, Sweet Pea, after she handed my sister the plant and then told her about the name and how important the plant was to her. My sister thought it was sweet and said goodbye, so I think she acknowledged the importance. As an avid gardener, I think you should still grow plants with your daughter. The reality of gardening is that plants die constantly. It's basically what they do, but they're still a lot of fun. I'll say not the jerk as a general judgment, but I think you can pull this back to being a more positive experience for your daughter. She will take cues from you on how to handle this emotionally. Right now, you're really upset at your sister, so your daughter is very upset about the plant. Take this as an opportunity to get some more plants. You could really turn things around. OP. That sounds like a great idea. I feel heartbroken and hurt seeing her like this, so I'll try and have a conversation with her about plant life cycles and maybe take her back to the store to pick up some nice plant pots, gardening tools, and seeds. Hopefully, that will cheer her up a bit. Update. After I had some time to cool off, I realized I was overreacting. I understand now that it was my fault to let my sister handle something that was so important to my daughter, and so after she had a bit of time to grieve her plant, I wasn't going to rush her feelings. We had a conversation of plant life cycles. I talked to her about how plants, even in the most well-cared-for circumstances, can pass, and I told her how proud I was that she took care of her plant as well as she did. After a bit of pep talk, she seemed ready to have a go at it again, so we took her to the garden shop again where she picked out her own tools, soil, pots, gloves, and lots of different plant seeds. We also got her some vegetables and fruit seeds like some of you suggested so that she could eat what she's grown, which she's really excited for. As for my sister, after a week of posting, I went over to try and explain why the plant meant so much to my daughter and how it couldn't be so easily replaced. I'm sad to say that she once again lectured me on how it was just a plant and that they die all the time. I also got a text from my parents about how they thought I was mature enough to just let go of something so stupid. I realized that they aren't going to change their minds on the subject and that I should just move on, so I've decided to drop the topic with them. But I have decided never to let my sister handle anything of value, especially if it's my daughter's. I have since apologized to my daughter about the Sweet Pea and we hugged it out. We also took the suggestion to use the old Sweet Pea as compost for a new one so that the old plant will still be with us. Overall, it's a happy ending. My daughter's feeling better than ever, has given names to all of her plants. She now has 12. She takes care of them just as well as the old Sweet Pea and has even gone back to requesting we call her Sweet Pea again, which I almost cried tears of joy when she asked that. So things turned out well in the end. Everyone's happy, the plants have already started sprouting, and life has never been better. A drunken revelation destroyed my relationship with my ex-fiancé. I was with my ex-fiancé, 31 male, for 4 years. Our wedding was going to be next month. One of his friends is getting married next weekend and he was in the wedding party. The bachelor party was at a brewery. There were a lot of pictures and videos. I, 32 female, am not on any social media, but people we both know saw them. Basically, he kept telling his friends that he hates how competent I am. He admitted to doing things to make my life harder, like putting things on the highest shelves out of my reach or breaking things that I need. He said he does it so I will need him more. That's not even the worst thing that he said though. I'm a paramedic, and last week I took the exam to become a tactical paramedic. He said he hopes I fail the exam because it's not fair that my job is more important than his. He works in marketing. I was so nervous about the exam, and he knew how important it was to me. I can't even explain how much it hurt me when he said that he hopes I fail. He said he was rambling and he didn't mean it because he was drunk. He said none of it was true, even though in some of the videos he went on and on about it. He also repeatedly messaged one of our mutual friends, who wasn't at the brewery, about wanting me to fail. He's blaming it on being drunk. Hearing him say over and over that he would sell his soul for me to fail my exam, or he wishes he could stop me from being a paramedic at all, so his job was more important, it really got to me. I don't believe him when he says it's not true and that he was just drunk. I feel so stupid for not realizing he was doing little things to make my life harder. Apparently, no one else did either, and everyone thought he was a great boyfriend, but I'm ashamed. I saw his mom a few days ago and she apologized to me and she was embarrassed. She saw the videos and apparently he also sent several messages to one of his brothers about how he hopes I'm a failure. It's so humiliating for me. I broke up with him and I've moved out of our apartment. I've been dealing with getting off the lease and canceling all of the wedding stuff because he didn't want me to break up with him. I haven't talked to him and probably won't ever again. His friend was having the wedding in a different province and he still wanted me to go with him to the wedding like everything was fine. I wouldn't be able to look anyone there in the eye. I feel like a complete idiot. What he said hurt me more than anything else. I feel like I'm drifting. I don't feel like I can even look anyone I know in the eye. They've all seen the videos and heard what he said. I feel stupid because I thought our relationship was good. The silver lining here is that you found this out before you married him. You shouldn't feel stupid for trusting the person you love not to fail you. This is 100% on him. He failed, not you. He embarrassed himself. He basically declared to everyone that he can't deal with an equal partner that has our life together. He's so insecure, he would actively try to sabotage you, because then he can look himself in the mirror and feel somewhat superior. Hold your head up high and find a partner that deserves you. Karen's brats keep kicking my door. Huge mistake. For context, I, 18 female, live with my two siblings, my sister who's 22 and brother who's 24. Recently, new people moved in right next to us and they have kids. They were a bit loud, which was kind of annoying, but they were kids, and kids tend to be loud. I didn't really have a problem with them until they started ding-dong ditching us. I don't even know if it could be considered ding-dong ditch because they literally just kick the door like they're trying to impersonate the FBI. They hang out in front of our house and do it every 10 to 20 minutes. Keep in mind, they kick hard. My sister was going to call the police in a fit of rage, but I told her no, because talking to their parents or calling the police might make it worse. I don't know the kid's situation at home. Confronting the parents might make it bad for them. But they keep doing it, more often and even kicking the door harder. There are literally dents and scuffs on the door now. I don't know how it's possible because they don't look like they're older than 10, and I'm seriously getting annoyed, and so are my siblings. They clearly don't see the security camera right in front of the door, so I know their intelligence is lacking, so I'm not gonna yell at them. So I wrote a note on a sign in front of the door, kindly asking them to stop, because my siblings work from home and it's extremely distracting. But it keeps happening. They even ripped up our sign. So I can't take it anymore. I slipped on some socks and slippers and I went next door to talk to their parents. The mom said it's not that big of a deal. My door wasn't seriously damaged and that they're just kids and they're trying to have fun. And if it's that distracting, I should put on some headphones. But the last straw is when these kids messed with my package outside the door. They shook it and threw the box against the stairs. I snapped and decided to take screenshots of all the security footage of them being little menaces. I made a poster with their faces on it, the damage that they've done, and photo evidence of them being menaces. I typed out, "Neighbors, be on the lookout. Local doorstep gremlins may terrorize your front door," which I found funny at the time. I print it out and tape it all over the neighborhood. My other neighbor finds it hilarious because those kids have been doing the same thing to her and she confronted the parents too. And the parent did absolutely nothing. But today, I got a giant knock on my door, and it wasn't the little snot-nosed brats, it was the mom. She called me all kinds of names for humiliating her kids. She said that her kids were crying and were now scared to go outside. She yells at me and drops pieces of the ripped-up poster on my doormat and walks away. Am I the jerk, or did these brats have it coming? Edit. 1. Why didn't I call the police in the first place? Well, because they couldn't do much more than give the "don't do this, don't do that" talk. The scuffs are dense, and they aren't even that bad. Ugly, but maybe a paint pen and some rice will fix it. Another reason I didn't call the police in the first place is because I didn't know the situation that they're in at home. Calling the cops could have enraged the parents and made things even worse. I don't know if their home life is troubled. But as soon as I saw that their mother acted like this, I saw a reason to humiliate them. I find that kids have a giant fear of being embarrassed and not coming off as cool as they seem to be. 2. What did I say to the mother? I just said that it was extremely distracting and disrespectful. I told her that there were dents and scuffs on the door, and I showed her the video evidence in the phone. I politely asked her to talk to them to tell them that this was affecting us in a negative way, and you already know the answer. 3. Will I call the police if it happens again? Yes and no. 911 is reserved for real emergencies, and I'm sure there's more serious problems than some neighborhood brats. Resources are plenty but thin. I don't want to take them up. If this does happen again, I won't call 911. I'll just file a complaint or call a non-emergency line. Not the jerk. Kids decided to play some stupid games and got some stupid prizes. What did they think was gonna happen? Also, I'm sad their mom's allowing this. If she's like this now, I'd hate to imagine what she'll allow in the future once they're teens. Neighborhood justice was served. Good on you. And I hope they stop hitting your door completely. My wife admits that she cheated on me, but she says it doesn't count since we weren't married yet. I'm 25, male. She's 23, female. The time frame is important here. We've been married for 3 years. We were together as a couple for 2 years before that, so we've been together for about 5 years total. 2 weekends ago, her sister got married, and of course, my wife was in the wedding party. So, as you would expect, she spent the 2 weeks prior to the wedding helping her sister get everything ready. No big deal at all. She kept me informed, and I knew this was going to happen. She took that Wednesday through Friday off work to help her, and in fact stayed with her 3 days. I certainly know her sister, but I barely know the guy who is now my brother-in-law. In fact, I've only met him a few times, but he seems nice enough. I show up Saturday morning, and a few hours before the ceremony, in hopes of stealing just a few minutes to see her, not wanting to intrude on the day since I know that she's busy, but I hadn't seen her since Tuesday. She sees me outside of her parents' house and sends her brother out to tell me that she will come out and see me at the car, which I thought was odd, but whatever. She finally comes out and sits in the seat next to me and gives me a kiss, but instead of acting happy to see me or whatever, she tells me that she has to talk to me and she doesn't want it to ruin her sister's day. She informs me that at the reception, if I still want to go, I might hear some things about the best man in her, and she didn't want it to be awkward or weird. I just kind of sat there, stunned. She said that about 4 years ago she had a fling with him and that it didn't mean anything, but she was aware that by nature I'm somewhat jealous, and she wanted me to know in advance so that if I heard something that I wouldn't be surprised. Again, I kind of just sat there. This was not how I thought my morning would go, but I told her I appreciated knowing it and that it certainly wasn't a big deal now. She went back in the house and I went to eat lunch and decided to meet her at the church. As I'm eating and reading my phone, it dawns on me. She said she had a fling with him 4 years ago, and we've been together for 5. My first reaction was to blow it off and think that she just told me the wrong time frame, but the more I thought about it, the more I started to remember, after about 1.5 years of us being together, she had a phase where she was really sketchy about her behavior, wasn't available when she normally was, and went on 2 weekend camping trips that were with friends from work. Of course, I'm a little knotted over this, but I know I have a long day ahead of me. I go to the wedding and sit there watching everything. After the wedding, they have a line that you walk by and congratulate the bride and groom, and the wedding party is standing in line as well. My wife is standing with some other guy. I don't know him at all, but the best man was there, and I just went down the line and acted like no big deal. Got to the reception, and it takes forever for them to get there because of photos. She finally gets there and sits with me. I decided not to say anything as I didn't want to distract from the day, but instead of just letting it go, she then tells me that each of the groomsmen and bridesmaids are going to dance, and that she's going to be dancing with him. I ask why when she was not his partner for the party, and she said that the maid of honor and her partner were actually married and wanted to dance with each other. At this point, I'm a little more than perturbed, but I try and not let it show. Thankfully, I was smart enough to not drink because I freely admit I get angry when I drink, so I know when to stay away from it. She talks to everyone around her, and then the dance comes, and he comes over and extends his arm, and she gets up. I try not to watch, and in fact, I make it a point not to. She comes back with him in tow, and they're joking like the best of friends. She decides that it would be a good idea to introduce us, and while I didn't say to buzz off like I wanted to, my greeting to him was probably less than cordial. But it did not deter him from sitting and talking with her for a few minutes. The more they sat and talked and reminisced about old times and places, the madder I got. Eventually, I got up and went to the bathroom, and when I came back, he was gone. She decided to tell me that she thought I was rude, which was not what I was all about hearing at the moment. I told her that this wasn't the time nor place to talk about it, but rest assured we would talk later. She sat there and then said that she was going to change clothes, and as soon as she got back, she was telling her sister that we were leaving because I had ruined her day, but she didn't want me to ruin her sister's day as well. I told her that I was perfectly capable of not being a bother to her or her sister the rest of the day, and that I did not want to be the cause of any drama, so I would prefer to just stay. She went and changed clothes and then came back all in a huff. Now understand, I have not said a word to her. I even shook the other guy's hand. I guess I just looked miserable, so that's what she was basing all of this off of. She was adamant about not staying, and so I said that if she really wanted to go, we could go. But if she would rather stay, I would be happy to stay. Or if she would like, since I came in my own car, I could leave and she could stay. She at first said that we should stay, but then said if I couldn't act any better, I should leave. I asked how I was acting, and she said it was obvious I was trying to be a silverback gorilla wanting to fight. I didn't know whether to laugh or be offended. I went back in and sat down while she mingled with the other guests. I talked with her brother for a while, but then ultimately ended up back at our table talking with her grandma. We leave at the same time, and I arrived home just before she did. I was sitting in the living room waiting on her when she came in and did not beat around the bush. I simply asked her to retell me the story about the other guy, and she said it word for word like before. After sitting and looking at her for a minute, I just said, "Are you sure about the time frame?" And she said she was. I then reminded her that we had been together for 5 years, so this fling was well over a year into us being together. What happened next, I can't really put into words. Instead of being flustered or denying or anything, she simply said, "I know." So I asked her to explain, and she tells me that they worked together and that it was just a physical thing, and she felt like we weren't in a great place at the time, and that she never had any feelings for him and never had any real intentions of leaving me. She just was having some fun for a few weekends. She said that it was probably a mistake on her part to tell me now, but she didn't want me to get blindsided. I did not take this the way that she thought I would, I guess. We had a very large argument, and it ended when she told me I was being childish about all of this. That we were married, and this happened way before that, and our life together now has nothing to do with him or that time. Well, 2 things. 1, I adamantly disagree about this has no bearings on us. She cheated on me and doesn't even have the decency to feel guilty about it. 2, I hate being told that I'm being childish when I'm upset over something. It upsets me to no end because that's her way of acting superior to me. I told her I needed time to think, and she told me there was nothing to think about. We loved each other, and this didn't change anything. That was 2 weeks ago, and I'm still not over it. She's been trying the past few days to get me to talk to her, but I admit that for whatever reason, I'm not viewing her the same as I did before this. Part of me is like, this is stupid. It happened a few years ago, and we're married now, and there haven't been any problems at all. But then part of me is like, I just found out she cheated on me, and it really hurts. And what makes it worse is that instead of trying to understand how I feel, she's trying to guilt me into just not even thinking about it. I don't know what to do. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.